If it seems like it's been years since it was announced that Shiny was working on a new game based on the Matrix series, that's because it has been years. But now their work is finally available in the form of Enter the Matrix, which is a game based on sub-characters that appear in the new film The Matrix Reloaded. The game kind of runs concurrently alongside the movie and kind of fills in a little pieces and bits of the backstory that you don't really necessarily get in the movie. Let's get one thing out of the way up top, though. There are going to be a lot of you that don't want to get anything spoiled for you as far as the game and the movie goes and all that stuff. So it'll suffice to say that Enter the Matrix is your basic third-person action game. You've got your kung fu action, you've got your gun action. It's broken up by some driving sequences and some hovercraft stuff. But for the most part, it's really pretty much a standard third-person action game that doesn't really go out of its way to do anything all that different, other than the obvious kind of Matrix effect of slowing everything down. The game also has its share of story sequences that, like I said, serve to kind of fill in that backstory. But even those are kind of few and far between. There's been some new FMV shot for the game. There's been some new footage shot for the game that basically stars, some of the sub-characters, but you never really see kind of the principal cast kind of getting in on any of that action. They do make appearances in the video, but all that video is actually just lifted directly from The Matrix Reloaded, so you don't really see a whole lot of new stuff with any characters that you actually would, care about. So at its best, Enter the Matrix is best suited for people who are huge fans of the Matrix that really want to go out of their way to get every little, nook and cranny of story that they can find. But even they might be disappointed because there's really only a few little tidbits of story to be found here that you wouldn't have found in the movie or, found better explained elsewhere. Enter the Matrix centers on two characters, Ghost and Niobe. They work on a craft called the Logos, which is basically the same type of hovercraft that Morpheus and Neo and Trinity are always flying around on in the movie. Only they kind of have their own little deal. They're off, running on their own missions, doing their own thing. A lot of that kind of ties into the plot line of the movie where, they're doing missions that will help the main characters or, they kind of try to keep it topical, but it doesn't really, tie in all that much. And the result is a game that kind of doesn't really lead you in any specific direction or give you any kind of sense of completion because it's based so much on kind of, tying into the movie. It doesn't really have a story of its own that stands up. When playing the game, you can choose as either Ghost or Niobe, and this will actually change the experience a bit. Some of the levels will actually be completely different. You'll see levels that are exclusive to one character or the other, but in other cases, you'll just be taking different paths through the same level to reach the same objective. You also see different cutscenes depending on which character you play. For instance, if you choose Ghost, you'll actually run into Trinity in one of the cutscenes. But regardless of who you play as, the experience remains largely the same. The main difference is that Niobe's the driver, while Ghost is the gunner. So in sequences where both of you are in a car, if you've chosen Niobe, you'll actually be driving the car, where if you choose Ghost, you'll be hanging out the car window with an assault rifle, taking out cop cars as you drive by. And beyond that, the action's roughly identical. You can fight in unarmed combat, or you can pull out the guns and go at it with dual pistols or assault rifles or shotguns. You'll even find a sort of grenade launcher type thing towards the end. And either way is a perfectly viable way for taking out the enemies. In hand-to-hand combat, the basic strategy is to actually use the disarm button, which is the action button, to just kind of run up. Cop will be pointing a gun at you. They're not really quick on the draw, so you really kind of have plenty of time to run up to them. You just tap a button, you'll spin them over, they'll drop their gun, you pick it up. You run on to the next guy who's got a gun, you flip him, pick up his gun. So basically, you can kind of disarm a room full of people in seconds. And from there, the standard enemies are so weak on the hand-to-hand stuff that it's really no contest to take all those guys out at once. Guns make it even easier. The guns kind of automatically target on stuff, so you can really just kind of sweep around a room and just take out guys left and right. You have plenty of guns to work with, and of course, most of the enemies are dropping even more guns as you go. So you'll never really be short on ammo unless you're a really bad shot. What made the Matrix in a lot of people's minds was the bullet time effect, this kind of slow motion effect where the characters were able to sort of move with superhuman speeds or do superhuman jumps and things of that nature. And this is represented in the game by your focus meter. Basically, anytime you enter focus mode, everything slows down, and you'll see bullets coming at you, and you can get out of the way of them and things like that. You can also execute a lot more acrobatic moves. You'll jump a lot farther when you're focusing. You can do cartwheels to the side, so you can actually shoot while you're doing this stuff. So, kind of the big tactic for really taking out guys and making sure you don't get hit is to just start doing cartwheels while you're pulling down the trigger, and you'll be flipping all over the place and just, icing everybody in your path. The shooting and focus mode would all be fine and good if there was actually kind of a meaningful reason for you to want to avoid getting shot. But the game does something that actually removes just about all the tension from it, and that's if you can find a quiet space and stand still for a little bit, you'll actually just slowly regain your health. It maybe takes you, a minute tops to go from 5% health to 99% health. So basically you can just kind of recharge, run into a room, get shot a few times, take out some guys, shoot some people, do some stuff. Once that room is clear, or if things get hot, you just backtrack to the last room, let your health recharge and run back in. And that means that pretty much the only challenge in the game is going to come from spots where it's not solely dependent on you surviving. There's going to be a couple spots as Ghost where you're going to be covering Niobe with a sniper rifle. You have to make sure that she doesn't get shot up by taking out some other snipers. And there'll be a few sequences here and there where you'll be covering for other people as they're running around. And those are really the only challenging spots in the game, but even those are relatively easy and shouldn't take you more than 1 or 2 tries to get through. Enter the Matrix is available on all 4 major platforms, all 3 consoles and the PC, and each version kind of has its own unique quirks and problems. The PC version's control is kind of crazy. It uses mouse and keyboard support, which is fairly standard for your kind of third-person action shooter. And when you got the guns out, it works pretty well. Unfortunately, a great deal of your time is going to be spent punching and kicking, and for that stuff, the control really isn't precise enough to really let you get fine control of that. The frame rate in the PC version is also a very serious problem. We ran it on systems that far exceeded the minimum system requirements for the game, and the frame rate was just a kind of a stuttery mess. Basically, anytime you'd get into a fight, it was just total chop, crazy. It was not so good. The PlayStation 2 version has a steadier frame rate. Of course, it doesn't look quite as good. It's definitely the worst looking of the 4 as far as standing static screenshots go. The characters are a little blockier and whatnot, and the game has some frame rate trouble of its own. It also has some pretty major audio bugs. Basically, you'll find in some of the in-engine cutscenes that it'll actually kind of play the audio for those cutscenes twice, staggered just a little bit apart, so there's this really loud echo that makes it so you really can't hear anything that's being said. That's really crazy. Also, later on in the game, you'll find that some of the interactive music starts to stutter a bit, and it's just a whole lot of weird audio problems. The game also crashed on us a couple of times. The Xbox doesn't have those audio problems, but the Xbox version also crashed on us a couple of times, so that's kind of a problem as well. The GameCube version actually didn't crash on us. It doesn't look as good as the Xbox version does, but does look a bit better than the PlayStation 2 version. However, the control in that version is also subpar. It has a lot in common with the Xbox control scheme in that it uses 1 trigger for strafing, whereas the PlayStation 2 version actually has a strafe left and a strafe right command that seems to work a lot better. In the end, Enter the Matrix is a game for die-hard Matrix fans. Those of you who aren't dying to see the little bits and pieces that are specific to the game can get away with just seeing the movie because all the game's really cool effect shots are actually taken directly from the movie, and so there's not much new to see there. In addition, as a third-person action game, as just the game itself, Enter the Matrix really doesn't do much to differentiate itself from other similar games on the market. It's like, yeah, sure, you can do the Matrix stuff, you can run up on the wall, you can cartwheel out of the way of bullets, but that's nothing that hasn't really been seen in games like Max Payne. Max Payne definitely used the bullet time effect much better, and there are just, it seems like there's tons of games coming along that will also be using that same effect. So, we're definitely kind of in a glut of martial arts, Hong Kong action movie themed action games. And, there are definitely some out now that are already better than Enter the Matrix. And hopefully the ones coming soon will also be better because Enter the Matrix is pretty run-of-the-mill as far as gameplay goes, and you could definitely do a lot better elsewhere.